14th century practices and a disease that we now know that Dr. Hoda says we have known is far more lethal than the flu. The president didn't think so. As recently as last Friday, compared it to the flu. Here's some of the president's other comments that are in stark contrast to the things he said last night. Let's watch and talk about it on the other side.
We're at war with a deadly virus. Success in this fight will require the full, absolute measure of our collective strength, love, and devotion. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. Very sobering. Yeah, when you see 100,000 people, that's at a minimum number. When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. And I've had many friends, business people with great, actually, common sense. They said, why don't we write it out? A lot of people have said, a lot of people have thought about it. Write it out. Don't do anything. Just write it out and think of it as the flu. But it's not the flu. It's vicious. Sometimes they just get the sniffles. Sometimes they just get something where they're not feeling quite right. And sometimes they feel really bad. But that's a little bit like the flu. It's a little like the regular flu.
Ashley Parker, I'm old enough to remember Donald Trump standing in a red hat that said keeping America great, saying I'm really good at this stuff, and saying things like on that tape. What brought about the change of heart, and do they own up to any of the president's past utterances?
They do not own up generally to any of the president's past utterances. The charitable explanation is that people are allowed to evolve, and they explain a range of reasons why the president did come around to that press conference yesterday that was grim and somber and serious and sort of had the weight you might have wanted to see the president displaying 2 months ago. They say part of that is he does listen to the scientists. He has an especially warm relationship with Dr. Birx. He was especially struck by the images coming out of Elmhurst Hospital in Queens, near where he grew up. He was struck by, as he mentioned, a friend of his going into the hospital for coronavirus and ending up in a coma, and that he's seen these projections, he's seen these numbers, and he understands how stark they are. That said, those statements of his you played early on, a lot of that early on was that he wanted to downplay this because he didn't want it to be true, because he didn't like seeing the markets fall. He has tied the markets closely and the financial success of the nation to his reelection hopes. That makes sense. So when the market started to fall, he initially seemed to engage in some magical thinking where he thought he could wish it away. And economics weighed very, very heavily on his mind at the beginning. There's also been some political considerations, frankly, that have brought him around. It's not that those other things I mentioned before aren't true, but he was also hearing and being briefed by campaign aides and advisors who were saying, look, a tremendous death toll of virus out of control ravaging the nation is not good politically. And so that's all that what brought him here. And just finally, to answer the second part of your question, when he's asked questions like, what if we had done social distancing sooner? What if we had done mitigation techniques sooner? Would we be in a better situation? And he basically, said, I accept no responsibility. And he points to his decision early on to block travel from China. He did do that. But when you talk to the public health officials and the experts, they say that should have been a period to buy the U.S. time to get prepared, to get testing up and running, to get supplies to hospitals. And we did not see that for far too long.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.